This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
I'm going to do things my way, innit? If Wilder works, we're going to make it happen. If Wilder isn't the right opponent for next year, then we'll put it back on into 2019. I'm going to take fights at the right time for me. Yeah, if it's next year or the year after or the year after, when I fight him, I'll be in a position to beat.
It's too early for Wilder to fight Joshua, really, but I would like to see it happening in 2 years' time, when they're both huge and we're talking about $1 billion income and not $100 billion income.
We had an email last night from Deontay Wilder offering us $50 million apparently, and I just written back and said, look, obviously we'd be very interested in that offer, but we need to see quite a few things. Proof of funds will be nice.
We're not asking to see proof of funds.
They made us a very good offer. Some of the points in that offer were good, some were acceptable, some were unacceptable, but the basic response from AJ, Rob McCracken, fight of this magnitude, of this history, should take place in the...
No, I'm very happy, but look, worst case scenario, if AJ's unbeaten for 10 years and doesn't fight Deontay Wilder, I'll take that.
Welcome back to Keep It Real Boxing. This is Cypher Box. Okay, so it's been a while since I've done one of these videos when it comes to AJ versus Wilder and the whole, I suppose, the politics involved in this whole situation. And I suppose I'm just going to get straight into it. Look, I haven't done a video on this for a reason, because all you've been hearing is Eddie Hearn going on interviews for weeks, for months, whatever it's been now, and saying the same thing, you know, that, you know, they don't want to speak to us, you know, at least have a dialogue with us, you know, tell us what you want, you know, and we'll look at it, etc, etc. But you know what, if Team Wilder, you know, doesn't want to talk to us, we can't make a fight. That, you know, that shows us how much they don't want the fight, etc, etc, etc. And it's quite funny. And as always, guys, I'm going to link all the articles, all the interviews, etc, etc, in the description of the video, so you can have a look through yourself. But it's interesting because Shelly Finkel, obviously, you know, a few days ago, whatever, or before the AJ fight, I think it was, yeah, before the AJ fight, put an article in the World Boxing News, basically replying to Eddie Hearn's comments. I guess he got sick and tired of all the bullshit, really, and basically turned around and said, that's not true. You know, we have been talking to Eddie Hearn. We have been talking to Matchroom Boxing. Yeah, you know, I have emails to prove it, and if you want, I'll show it. So all this time that Eddie Hearn's saying that they're not being in contact with us, they're not talking to us, Shelly Finkel has basically turned around and said that's all BS, and basically said that they have been in continuous contact with Eddie Hearn. They've replied to all their emails, etc, etc. Now it's quite funny, once Shelly Finkel said this, I think it was like a day or two later, Eddie Hearn did this interview with Kugan Cassius of IFL TV.
So you've sent, you got a response from Shelly Finkel?
He came back and he just said, make us a real offer and we'll talk. I'm like, well, you just accepted that offer, so what is that, not a real offer? So we're going to...
In terms of the finance or the terms within the deal?
It's the same thing, isn't it? I mean, the deal is the deal. I mean, in terms of the crux of the deal, the finances of the deal. But they've agreed a deal with us that they no longer want to agree, basically.
Right.
So now we're going to improve that. But we want to get Saturday out of the way. I'm not going to send it today or tomorrow morning. Let's get Saturday out of the way. And then when it is, we'll send them a new offer. And then my old man will go and see Shelly. And if we can agree a deal in 2, 3, 4 weeks, that's the one we want to do in April.
Around there. Yeah. So, improved offer, 70 enough?
That's not. We've been down this road, haven't we? Let's try and keep it confidential. We will improve our offer.
Now this always happens. Yeah, it's happened on a couple of occasions before, and I am going to give you an example of it. Yeah, where Shelly Finkel will come out and say, I've had enough of this, you know, this guy's talking out of his backside, all right, and I'm going to squash this bullshit. Yeah, that Eddie Hearn's spinning, which is they haven't been in contact with us, etc, etc, etc. And then all he comes out and says is, I'll show you the emails if you want. We've been in touch with him. We've replied to all his emails. And then suddenly Eddie Hearn will come out and say, oh yeah, you know, he got in contact with us the other day and etc. It was like the same thing when they were doing the first negotiation. Remember when Shelly Finkel came out and said, oh, you know, I've sent an email back to Eddie Hearn with a few questions and I've asked him to change a few points in the contract, etc. And Eddie Hearn hasn't got back to me yet. So he sent out an email on the Monday, and on the Thursday he went to the media saying that Eddie Hearn hasn't returned his email or got back to him about his questions and obviously the things that he would like changed in the contract. And then on the Friday, finally Eddie Hearn decides he's going to answer Shelly Finkel, and on the Saturday he puts a tweet out on the morning saying that the win call has been satisfied. Yeah, this happens all the time. Every time Shelly Finkel threatens to make emails public and, you know, give them to the media so they can see them themselves, we see Eddie Hearn do something like this where he says, oh yeah, they've been in contact with us now, etc. Whatever. Do you know what I mean? Again, this guy, Eddie Hearn, this is why I don't believe Eddie Hearn half the time. He puts himself in situations which come back and bite him in the arse. Now, after the AJ Povetkin fight, Eddie Hearn turned around and said that Wilder must agree now to fight AJ. They're not willing to wait until after the Fury fight. My question is, why? Now, here's my take on it, and it's very simple. The winner of that fight, whether it be Fury, whether it be Wilder, which we now know is taking place on December the 1st. Contracts have been signed. The press tour has been confirmed. 3-city tour. We've seen the promos on Showtime Sports. If you go to their YouTube channel, BT Sports have also put it out on Instagram and on their YouTube channel. So the fight's happening. For all of those who are, you know, still who are kind of like in denial that, oh no, this fight's not happening. I won't believe it, but it's happening. All right, keep saying what you want. It's happening. But it's very simple. The reason why Eddie Hearn wants Wilder to agree it now is because he wants to get Wilder, or try to get Wilder, on the cheap. Because whoever wins this fight out of Wilder or Fury, whichever one it is, their stock rises massively. Because whoever wins is not only the WBC champion, but the lineal champion of the world. That's why. Which means they bring more to the negotiation table. Which means Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Sports, Barry Hearn, Sky Sports, etc. will have to fork out a lot more money to make the fight and pay the winner of Fury Wilder a lot more money. And he's trying to get the deal done now where he can actually basically get Wilder or Fury, whoever, well, Wilder in this case, on the cheap. Now, what does it mean for the winner of Wilder Fury? Well, the winner of Wilder Fury could basically ask for 40%, which is what they should have been getting anyway, roughly, or at least a minimum of 35%. Okay? But Eddie Hearn obviously has been playing all these games because he wants to get Wilder to take the lesser money, the cheap payday. Okay, so Anthony Joshua and especially Matchroom Sport financially benefit from the fight because they know how much money this fight's going to make. Because at the beginning they said this fight only makes 40 million. Then it was suddenly 60 million. Now it's 70, 80 million. So quite clearly they're telling you, that's Barry Hearn and Eddie Hearn, that this fight is growing in revenue, in potential revenue, month by month, week by week, day by day. And the longer you leave it, the bigger it gets. And that's why Eddie Hearn's so eager to suddenly get the contract signed right now. But here's another question I have for you. Okay? And, you know, my question is, what's the hurry now suddenly? Because when announcing the Povetkin fight, AJ versus Povetkin, they said, and I quote, this is coming from Anthony Joshua, that Wilder has till January to sign that contract that they signed out. You know, the one that Eddie Hearn signed for $15 million to fight in April. Okay? But why does he need to agree right now? when you said he has till January to agree and sign a contract, so they got enough time to train and stuff. And I'm going to explain myself in a second here to you guys. But before I break this down for you guys properly, this point, let me just play you that audio of Anthony Joshua saying that Wilder had till January to sign the contract.
So what's your timescale for that then, for him to sign that contract?
I'll sign my side.
Yeah, so for him to sign it, how long are you giving him?
He's got until how long he needs before April 13th. Let's say rewind 3 months, January to kind of get February 13th. That'll give him 3 months training camp.
And no, AJ, you didn't sign the contract. Eddie Hearn signed the contract. Let's get the facts straight there. Right. Now, going back to my point, Eddie Hearn says it takes 2 months to negotiate a fight, especially this fight. It's going to take at least 2 months to negotiate. So why don't you start negotiating right now? Shelly Finkel has made it quite clear. Make us a real offer and we're willing to talk and hear you out. Okay? So start negotiating right now. We are now at October. We're in October. You got October, November and December to negotiate. Okay? If you start right now, yeah, that's plenty of time. Before January, and then the fighters have got enough time to train. Now, here's my point. Negotiate the fight now as if Wilder is going to win the fight. It should be all around. If Wilder wins the fight, this is what we're willing to offer. And Shelly Finkel will probably turn around and say, we want 40%, etc. and stuff like that. Boom, boom, boom. So when you put this contract, this offer together, it's not for what you're not going to base it on how things are right now, where Wilder and Fury haven't fought. You're going to put a contract together with the assumption if Wilder wins against Tyson Fury, which means his stock rises, which means you have to pay him more money. Yeah? What Eddie Hearn's trying to do is still trying to offer like a $15 million offer, or he'll probably offer like 17.5 million or 20 million or something like that. No. You have to put an offer together right now with the assumption that Deontay Wilder is going to beat Tyson Fury. Which means you're going to have to put a minimum of a 40% split in the contract just to even get Team Wilder interested in talking to you. If that makes sense. And that's what Shelly Finkel means by make us a real offer. Yeah? This fight, you can't, and I said this last time, yeah? The $15 million offer, that contract, which originally Deontay Wilder accepted for September, but we know Eddie Hearn played games. He delayed the signing of the contract. Then he got the WBA to call a 24-hour deadline suddenly, etc., etc. We know all the stuff that's going on. I've exposed this already in previous videos. Okay? But Eddie Hearn is trying to make the same $15 million offer for the fight in April. But I've said this in the past, that the offer you made in September is no longer valid. Because like I just said, and like Barry Hearn and Eddie Hearn are quite clearly saying, with the valuation that they think the fight's going to make in terms of money, the fight only becomes bigger and more financially lucrative as each day, week and month goes on. So by April, the fight in April with Wilder and AJ, a potential fight in April, is no longer has the same value as a fight in September. Therefore, you have to make a bigger offer for the April fight. Do you get it? Now, with Wilder Fury happening in December, and if Wilder wins that fight, the fight grows even more from a financial point of view. Wilder's stock rises even more than it already has over the last year. Therefore, you will have to pay him a lot more money. You would have to give him a big percentage split, because he's not going to accept anything less. He's not willing to accept anything less right now, and he hasn't even fought Fury, for crying out loud. Now, Eddie Hearn keeps saying, oh, tell us what you want. We want to make the Wilder fight. Okay. Well, after you messed Deontay Wilder around with the delaying of the signing of the contract in the first negotiation, plus the stunt you pulled with the WBA in a 24-hour deadline. And I've exposed all of this in previous videos, so I'm not going to sit here debating with people about points I've already made regarding those situations, those scenarios, yeah? But he's made it clear. He said, after you messed me around, all deals are off the table. I want a 50-50 split and a two-way rematch clause. Everyone out there saying, oh, you know what, he doesn't deserve a two-way rematch clause, etc., whatever. But Vladimir Klitschko got a two-way rematch clause. And he wasn't even a champion. He was coming off a 2-year layoff and a loss to Tyson Fury. And the man got a two-way rematch clause. How does that make sense that a champion gets a fighter, Vladimir Klitschko, who isn't a champion, gets a two-way rematch clause, but Deontay Wilder doesn't? It doesn't make sense. Now, another point that everyone's bringing up is the Wilder-Fury contract and the rematch clause in their contract. Now, Eddie Hearn's turned around and said that, well, the fight with Wilder and AJ can't happen in April anyway, because if Wilder's smart and his management team is smart, which they are, they will have a rematch clause in place for Deontay Wilder, which is true. Because if Deontay Wilder was to lose, he would want a rematch. The opportunity to win his titles back off Tyson Fury. Which means that fight will potentially probably take place in March or whatever. Yeah, February, whatever. Okay? So why are you even talking about a potential fight with Wilder or trying to negotiate a fight with Wilder for April still? Do you see? It doesn't make sense. Eddie Hearn doesn't make sense. One minute he says, yeah, right, okay, you know, we're willing to talk, you know, but they won't talk to us. We're willing to talk with Deontay Wilder and make a fight in April with Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua, etc., and all that sort of stuff. But then you turn around and you make the comment that I've just explained to you. Do you see what I mean? Eddie Hearn doesn't even know what he's doing or talking about half the time. Now, there's a rumour going around as well that the rematch clause in the Wilder-Fury contract is a two-way rematch clause. So even if Wilder wins, Tyson Fury has the right to a rematch. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, what does he need a two-way rematch clause? You know, that's just stupid. Eddie Hearn said, well, you know, if that's the case, then Deontay Wilder is an idiot for putting a two-way rematch clause in place. But I'm going to make 2 points now to you. One, you must be an idiot as well, Eddie Hearn. And I'll explain to you why Eddie Hearn must be an idiot. Because didn't Eddie Hearn have a two-way rematch clause between AJ, the champion, and Vladimir Klitschko, the challenger? No? So if you're saying Deontay Wilder's an idiot for having a two-way rematch clause with Fury, you're an idiot as well because you put a two-way rematch clause in place between your fighter, Anthony Joshua, who was the champion, and Vladimir Klitschko, who was the challenger. Okay, we know that Vladimir Klitschko decided to retire instead of enforcing that rematch clause, but the two-way rematch clause was still there in the contract. Point 2. If Wilder has allowed for a two-way rematch clause between him and Fury, there's a reason why. Deontay Wilder, you remember when they were originally making this fight and they were starting the negotiations for Wilder Fury, what did Deontay Wilder, Frank Warren, even Shelly Finkel all confirm? That it's a 50-50 split because Deontay Wilder sees Tyson Fury as a champion, an undefeated champion. He's still holding the lineal championship of the world. He is the lineal champion. And he's treating him like a champion, so he said that's why it's going to be a 50-50 split. I'm the WBC champion of the world, he's a lineal champion of the world. Okay? And that's also why he's probably put a two-way rematch clause in place, because he's treating Tyson Fury as a champion. Because he is, he's still the lineal champion of the world, no matter what you say. It doesn't matter if that Ring Magazine belt was taken away from him. He's still the man who beat the man. So he's giving him the respect of a champion and saying you can have a rematch clause if you lose. That's why, unlike Eddie Hearn, who's giving Deontay Wilder no respect as a champion whatsoever by not giving him a rematch clause. and by trying to give him a slave contract every time they attempt negotiations. Now, Shelly Finkel has also turned around and said that he won't meet with Barry Hearn again. Unless they've got a real offer to put on the table, we won't meet with you. And you know what? I don't blame them. Because the last time they met with Barry Hearn, even Barry Hearn himself admitted that they got nothing out of the meeting. That nothing came out of it. And Shelly Finkel's probably thought to himself, I'm not going to waste my time again like we did a few months ago. Either you put a real offer on the table, and Barry Hearn should know what a real offer is because he's been in boxing long enough. That's what Shelly Finkel said, that Barry Hearn has been in boxing long enough to know what I mean by a real offer. Stop playing games. Stop acting like idiots. You know what a real offer looks like. And that real offer, in my opinion, I think Shelly Finkel, what he's trying to say is a minimum of 40%. We want a percentage split. We want a two-way rematch clause. We want to know where the venue is and what the date is. Simple as that. No messing around anymore. And if you're not going to bring a serious real contract offer to the table, then we're not interested in talking to you or even meeting with you or wasting any more time on you. It's that simple. And I totally agree. Shelly Finkel has also stated that he doesn't believe Wilder AJ will happen in 2019. Yeah? And he's basically echoed the same thing I've been saying to you guys for over a year now. But not only that, what I've recently said to you guys, if you watched my video where I did a video obviously where Eddie Hearn announced that he was signing Oleksandr Usyk to DAZN and Matchroom USA and Matchroom etc. Yeah? Shelly Finkel's turned around and basically said that AJ wants to fight Whyte in April. He keeps talking about Dillian Whyte. Oh, Dillian Whyte deserves a shot. Me and Dillian have a respect for each other. Blah, 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 etc, etc, etc. Alright? And he's also turned around and said the same thing I said, which AJ will fight Oleksandr Usyk in September of 2019, in the fall of 2019, should he get past Tony Bellew. Now, we know Eddie Hearn wants to make AJ versus Whyte in April. But in a recent interview with Michelle Joy Phelps on Behind the Ropes, he's also hinted at what Shelly Finkel has been saying, which is Oleksandr Usyk in the fall of 2019. She put a question to him about Oleksandr moving up to heavyweight and fighting AJ potentially. And his answer was simple. Well, and I said this in my video. I'm not going to lie, in my video about Eddie Hearn signing Oleksandr Usyk. Yeah, I also said this in my video that they would, if Oleksandr Usyk beats Tony Bellew in November, right? They will put him on the undercard in April again between AJ and Whyte in his first heavyweight contest. Now, what Eddie Hearn said to Michelle Joy Phelps was that that fight wouldn't happen straight away because, of course, he believes Oleksandr Usyk's team will at least want one fight at heavyweight just to get used to the heavyweight division, to kind of acclimate himself and, do you know what I mean, feel the weight out and all that sort of stuff. He goes, and then maybe next we will get AJ versus Oleksandr Usyk. And I've linked the interview in the description of this video, so go watch it for yourselves. But Eddie Hearn has already hinted that Oleksandr Usyk could be next for Anthony Joshua after Dillian Whyte in April. So, do you know what I mean? This all tells me they're not serious about making a fight with Wilder or even with Fury, the winner of Wilder or Fury. Now, a couple of days before, or a couple of nights before the AJ Povetkin fight, the WBO on their Instagram page put up a picture of Eddie Hearn having dinner with their president, the president of the WBO. Now, the reason I'm talking about this is because this is where the politics start to play in this sport. Yeah, and this is the kind of politics and games that Eddie Hearn's doing behind the scenes. I just talked about how he's openly said that Oleksandr Usyk could be next for Anthony Joshua after Dillian Whyte. I think it was a month ago, or it was after Oleksandr Usyk won the World Boxing Super Series and became the undisputed cruiserweight champion of the world. And then he said, I'm interested in going up to heavyweight and fighting Anthony Joshua. The WBO put out some information basically saying that if Oleksandr Usyk moves up to heavyweight, they would make him the WBO mandatory challenger to Anthony Joshua's WBO heavyweight title. Now, I'm going to put a pick up for you now. Here you go. Now, as always, guys, links to these articles you will find them all in the description of this video. Now, I put a little grid picture up here for you guys, but here's an article from BoxingScene.com, okay, from August the 2nd, and it says, promoter Usyk capable of being WBO mandatory for Joshua. Yesterday, the WBO cleared that Oleksandr could become mandatory challenger at heavyweight based on the organization's regulations. A super champion in one weight class has the right to claim a championship belt in a category above. The champion of the WBO heavyweight is Anthony Joshua, so Oleksandr now has the right to fight with Joshua. Concluded, I can't pronounce his name, so I'm not going to try. And on the right hand side, you can see another article from The Sun where they're also saying the same thing, that, you know, it says Oleksandr Usyk will be Anthony Joshua's mandatory WBO challenger if cruiserweight super champ moves to heavyweight. It also says on it, Tony Bellew is first in line for a shot at the undefeated southpaw king of the 200-pound division, but AJ is watching closely. And this is how Eddie Hearn operates. So with all the nonsense that was going on back in the summer, we knew Povetkin was going to be the next opponent in September. We all knew this anyway, yeah? Okay, the only people that were in denial are the AJ fanboys out there, who were, you know, protecting AJ and Eddie Hearn. Not only that, okay, when that fight was signed, we knew the April fight wasn't going to get signed either, because then they immediately started talking about the next stage of their plan for Anthony Joshua, which was Dillian Whyte, a rematch with Dillian Whyte in April. So we know the fight wasn't going to happen in April anyway. So regardless of whether Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder were fighting or not, we knew the fight with AJ Wilder was not going to take place in April either, because they already set their mind and their plan focused on making a rematch between Anthony Joshua and Dillian Whyte. Okay, now that they're pretty much going to have Dillian Whyte versus Anthony Joshua in April, like, I don't know what's going on with the whole Dillian Whyte and Chisora thing. You know, they haven't even drawn up a contract for that, from what I understand. So, but they're already talking about it. You know, Anthony Joshua saying how Dillian deserves a shot, etc., and all that stuff, right? But now you see what they're doing. Okay, so now you see, I've shown you a picture of Eddie Hearn having dinner with the WBO president a couple of nights before AJ versus Povetkin. So he's lining up the next part of their plan for Anthony Joshua, which will be after Dillian Whyte, which will be against, hopefully, potentially against Oleksandr Usyk, which will probably happen in about September 2019. So I agree with Shelly Finkel. I said it before Shelly Finkel said it. And in a sense, Shelly Finkel's actually agreeing with me, which is we're not going to see the fight in 2019, which I said, you know, over a year ago as well. And the plan, you remember the clip I played you at the beginning, Anthony Joshua? If it happens the next year or the year after that or the year after that, which will be 2020, that's when I'll make the fight with Deontay Wilder. And it's funny how that plan, it's starting to reveal itself and starting to play out that way. And remember what Barry Hearn said in his last IFL interview. We have a 10-year plan for Anthony Joshua. You don't take risks. We have a plan for him and we're going to follow that plan, basically what he was saying. He also said that if AJ went the next 10 years undefeated without fighting Deontay Wilder, he'll take that. meaning he'd be happy with that. Do you know what I mean? A lot of people, and this is really funny, in my last couple of videos, someone jumped on the video and said that, oh, but you didn't mention the part that he said that, the fight with Wilder, AJ could happen as early as fall of 2019. Well, I'm going to play you that clip again because I put some questions to you AJ fans the last time round and no one still answered the question. I answered your question, but you never answered mine. So I'm going to play you that clip again, both those clips.
He wants. I mean, Eddie and Anthony Joshua would fight Deontay Wilder on September 22nd. I, personally, my advice was let's leave it 2 years. Because then how the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight got built, you know, in commercial terms, Deontay Wilder and AJ today is a $70 million fight, maybe 80. In 2 years' time, it might be 250, $300 million.
But there's a greater risk of in 2 years' time one of them fighters getting beat.
That's where your judgment comes in and say, do I see anyone out there to beat either of them? No. Could it happen? Yes. If it happens, okay, that was a bad call. But you know, life's about making calls. It's not about sitting still, not taking chances. So I think Shelly Finkel wanted to cash in on Deontay Wilder straight away. That's my honest view. He wanted to fight straight away. That's crazy. Business crazy. And Shelly knows better than that, unless he didn't fancy winning the fight and thought we better get some money out of it. That's a possibility. We don't have that concern with AJ.
Have you had any further conversations with Shelly Finkel since?
No, I wouldn't have a conversation unless Eddie told me to, because he's in charge. I'm happy to be there if necessary, and I'm sure post Fury Wilder, if it happens, would be a good time to talk again. But when you plan a business that's got a 10-year lifespan, you don't rush it. You know, I said to AJ, he asked me my honest opinion. I said, if you told me you were going to retire in 6 months' time, I'd tell you to fight Deontay Wilder now. If you tell me you're here for the long run, I say that fight can only get bigger. And also, you don't take chances. You don't go to the other bloke's backyard when you don't need to. The money is insignificant different.
So if it's your personal preference, you would choose for AJ to fight him in 2 years' time from now? 2
years would be the maximum. The most likely thing for me would be fall 2019.
Now I'm going to point out two things at this stage of the interview. Okay, one, I'm going to answer that question again, right? You see that you AJ fans had. You see how Coogan asked that question. So you would wait another 2 years to make that fight? Basically is what he's asking, with surprise and shock. Like, really? Did you just say that? And obviously Barry Hearn's calm enough and experienced enough to realise, okay, I know what I just said there, so I better backtrack here and say, oh, well, the earliest we'll probably make that fight is the fall of 2019. But another thing Barry Hearn says here is he contradicts himself basically within a minute of this interview. He says at the beginning, because Coogan Cassius says to him, if you wait 2 years to make this fight, isn't there a risk of AJ or Wilder losing? And he says, yeah. But he says, life's about making calls, and it's not about not taking chances. So basically what he's saying there is life's about taking risks, is what he's saying. But then closer to the end of the video, he turns around and says, well, you don't take chances, you don't go and fight in the other guy's backyard if you don't need to. So which is it? Either life's about taking chances and taking risks, or it's not about taking chances and, life, you shouldn't take risks. Like, which is it? Now I'm going to put this question to the AJ fans again. Explain this comment that I'm about to play for you from Barry Hearn, because it doesn't make sense.
So I'm very happy. But look, worst case scenario, if AJ's unbeaten for 10 years and doesn't fight Deontay Wilder, I'll take that.
That says it all for me, really, to be honest with you. When you make a comment like that, that just shows that there's really no desire to make, or any rush to make, AJ versus Deontay Wilder. Now I'm going to talk about a comment that Anthony Joshua made in an interview, was it the post-fight press conference against Povetkin or whichever it was, but he's made it publicly. Yeah. where he says he still fears losing to a one-punch knockout. Okay? And basically what he says is that, you know, he's afraid of losing a fight that way. Okay, I'm not going to read the article to you. It's linked in the description of the video. I will show you the headline in a second. Here it comes. All I'm going to ask you is this. Who in the heavyweight division has that one punch, devastating knockout power? That's right. Deontay Wilder. So they've delayed. Look, this fight should have happened in September. It didn't happen in September. We're clearly not going to see it in April. We're probably not even going to see it in 2019. I played clips right at the beginning in the intro of this video. You know, AJ saying next year, the year after that, the year after that, etc, etc. All these things. And now he's saying he's afraid of that one punch KO knockout loss. So lose a fight like that. Well, there's probably only one real heavyweight in the division who's going to do that to Anthony Joshua. And that's Deontay Wilder. So is that him trying to say he's afraid to lose to Deontay Wilder? Don't know. You make your own decision on that one. But I think it's a strange thing to say for apparently the guy who's considered the #1 heavyweight in boxing today, Anthony Joshua. Now, I kind of want to finish off the video on this bit because I thought it was quite funny. You all know recently that Barry Hearn and Frank Warren recently exchanged words and went at it live on Radio 5. And you know what? I'm going to play you what took place, you know, on that live radio show. Okay? And then I'm going to give you my take on the back of it. All right? But I thought it was quite funny watching these two old boys go at each other. But look, I'm going to play it for you now just in case you didn't see it. Or sorry, just in case you haven't heard it. And then I'm going to kind of give you my opinion on all of it.
So now, what next? Deontay Wilder, the WBC champion, it's been confirmed in the last 24 hours that he's going to fight Tyson Fury in America, and Frank Warren, who arranged that's on the line. So let me get, first of all, before we bring Frank in, a reaction to that December the 1st fight, Barry.
Well, I mean, great. You know, it's a good fight. I think it's something that will get people's attention, and like everything else, I mean, as I think Anthony said last night so clearly, is that we focus on ourselves, and obviously Anthony wants to fight the best out there. So I think it's a great fight for boxing. I think it's a little early, bless him, for Tyson, but yeah, I understand his reasoning, and it's shrewd business. You know, I suppose if Tyson Fury gets beat by Deontay Wilder, he could probably still come back and fight Anthony Joshua, whereas if it was the other way round, he couldn't. So that's 2 for the price of 1. Very good. I look forward to it. I think Deontay Wilder's a big favourite.
Well, stay on the line if you would, because Frank Warren joins us. Frank, so all the paperwork signed, it's definitely happening December the 1st, yeah?
It is, and there'll be Deontay and his team will be in London Monday week, and we'll be starting the first leg of the press tour, which will take in New York, LA, and there's one other city which hasn't been decided yet.
Yeah. If Wilder lost as the champion, is there a rematch clause in the contract for him to fight Fury again before any other contest?
I can't give you the details of the contract.
Why not?
Because I just told you. But the situation is very clear. The winner of that fight and Anthony Joshua is a big fight, and nothing will stand in the way of that happening. I believe that Tyson Fury will be the winner. As Barry just said, that's a big fight, so why on earth would anybody want to stand in its way?
No, all I was merely thinking that if Fury won and Wilder as the champion lost, Wilder, you know, if I was his manager, I'd say have a rematch contract in there, and so that might scupper an immediate fight with Joshua, if you see the point I'm making.
No, I absolutely do see the point, but I think everybody's sensible enough to make sure that the big fights happen, and there are ways to make things happen. So I don't believe that anything will stop that fight from happening. The only people who can stop it from happening is Anthony Joshua's people.
So Barry Hearn, you say?
Well, with all respect, total rubbish. Number one, there's got to be a rematch clause, obviously, because there's no way Deontay Wilder is going to risk his WBC title without a rematch, of course, unless his management has changed, because his management are actually quite sensible. So, look, there's no rush. I mean, I think Frank would agree that, you know, you don't rush anything in boxing. We've got a fighter here who's 22 fights, the world #1 heavyweight. There's no rush whether he fights Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury later on. I mean, we're not going away from this world. In an ideal world, we have a plan. If the ideal world doesn't work out, we have another plan, and we run a proper business at a proper time. But I know Anthony has made his shopping list of who he would prefer to fight next, and that is Deontay Wilder. But it doesn't mean to say the deal can be done, because you don't just go into any meeting and say, I want to fight you, I'll agree any terms. Anthony's planning a 6, 7, 8 year career. It doesn't end on April the 13th. It's just another day of the journey of Anthony Joshua's career.
Frank. Well, that tells you all you need to know. They don't want to fight. If they wanted to fight Wilder, they would have fought him yesterday. That's what would have happened. They didn't want to fight him. It's as simple as that. They turned down a $50 million offer, and that's why we're making the fight. The facts of the matter are the public want the fight, Sam. They want the winners to fight, want to see who's the best. Yeah, and I respect what Barry says, because he's an accountant. That's his mentality. What does he want to kill the golden goose for? The public want to see the best fighting the best. And the 3 best heavyweights out there are Anthony Joshua, Wilder, and Tyson Fury. So the bottom line is 2 of them are fighting. The lineal champions fighting the WBC champion, both undefeated. The winner of that should fight Anthony Joshua next April. Why shouldn't that happen?
Barry. Great. It's great if it happens. We want to fight Wilder. We've sent Wilder a signed contract to fight on April the 13th already.
We'll be fighting Tyson Fury.
Yeah, but he's fighting. No, we will agree a term with Deontay Wilder to fight on April the 13th if he beats Tyson Fury. If he doesn't beat Tyson Fury, I believe we've got to look around, because we've got a business to run. We want to deliver the fights people want. That's why we do the biggest shows in the world.
The public don't want to see Anthony Joshua against Tyson Fury.
Tyson Fury will not be in a position, in my view, Frank.
Well, let's put it this way. Let's just
if he is, I'd love to see it.
Well, let me tell you, that's my problem to sort out. But let's assume that he is in that position. Is the fight going to happen? Is the fight going to happen?
Yeah, I can't do that, because I can't assume that you're telling me the truth. I don't believe he is going to be in a position to do that.
That's not why I asked. Whether you're saying whether you believe it or not, what I'm saying to you, if he's in that position.
There's no question. If Tyson in a world where...
That's up to me to deliver that, isn't it? So
I'm
pleased to hear that you have stated publicly, if he's in the position, we'll make the fight. That's all we want.
Of course, and it's like everything else, Frank, as you know, it's subject to terms.
Well, it shouldn't be a problem, should it? The lineal champion who's now the WBC.
We are not on Radio 5, and this is very poor form to be negotiating in the public arena. I don't do that, and Radio 5 should know. But we will agree to
Gentlemen, let me as the referee just step in here, and what I'm going to ask you to do, I'm just going to be the referee here.
On national radio to try and agree terms for a commercial fight. You should know better, and Radio 5 should be ashamed of itself.
Hang on 1 second, Barry.
He has nothing else to pull.
Hang on 1 second, Barry. We did ask you whether you would talk to Frank Warren, so don't say Radio 5 should be. So, Barry, would you just bear with us for 1 second? I'm going to let you have your say. Can you just tell us in a nutshell what you see the situation as, Barry, please?
Wilder or Tyson Fury, subject to terms on April the 13th, without a problem in the world.
Okay, and Frank, let's get a little response from you.
I'm absolutely delighted that Barry's just said. So there you go, people who are listening. The winner will fight Anthony Joshua. You heard it from the chairman.
Subject to terms, because you will ask for a ridiculous amount of money and it won't be made. But let's try to talk about it anyway.
It'll be very simple. It's a 50-50 deal.
It's not a 50-50 split against the #1 heavyweight in the world.
All right.
Get that completely.
Gentlemen, I appreciate you coming on. I'm only sorry we couldn't have done a pay-per-listen deal for 5 like that. Barry, thank you very much for coming on the programme.
Good, it won't be happening again, thank you.
Okay, Frank, thank you very much as well.
Well, I hope I'm on the programme again.
Yeah, we'll invite you back. Kevin, a reaction to that, and as I say, I will make the point that we said to Barry Hearn before he came on the air, he was on, and my producer said they were happy to talk.
Gary, I think I need a cup of tea, mate, after that. Look, I think that discussion was more about the way that Frank and Barry feel about each other, which is clear, and that's been a career-long entertainment for most of us in this business. But they both made their positions clear, and it'll come down to the nitty-gritty. Already, Frank's thrown in the 50-50 and Barry's saying forget it, so there's the first tension for a start. But it might not be Frank's decision to make if Wilder does, as I expect anyway, and does the business in December.
Okay, so I did cut the beginning part out of that radio show because it was just Barry Hearn going on about AJ's performance against Povetkin and stuff like that, and I just thought, let me just get straight to the meat of the interview conducted by Radio 5. Now, you heard Barry Hearn say in there that there's no, regardless of who the winner is out of AJ and out of Wilder and Fury, there's no rush to make the fight. Again, repeating his usual stuff. We have a plan. It doesn't mean a deal can be done even if there is whoever the winner is out of those two, Wilder and Fury. Saying the same old stuff. AJ's planning, a 7-8 year career. It doesn't end on April 13th, And then Frank turns around and says, Frank Warren turns around and says, well, he understands Barry's position because, he doesn't want, Barry doesn't want to kill the golden goose, which is Anthony Joshua, of course. But basically, what he also turns around and says that if Wilder doesn't beat Fury, we will have to look around because we have a business to run. That's what Barry Hearn just said, so I'll repeat that to you again. If Wilder doesn't beat Fury, we will have to look around because we have a business to run. Try and explain that to me, because if Fury beats Deontay Wilder, why wouldn't you just make that fight next with between Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua? Why do you need to look around? Oh, we want to make the fights. He's saying, we want to make the fights that the public want. Well, the public would kill to see Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury should Tyson Fury beat Deontay Wilder. Right? There's no need to look around. That's the WBC lineal champion, heavyweight champion of the world. If Tyson Fury beats Deontay Wilder, why would you even want to fight Dillian Whyte or Oleksandr Usyk or anyone else for that matter? Do you get what I'm trying to say? So it doesn't make sense what Barry Hearn's saying. Now, Barry Hearn's saying that he was saying, well, he doesn't believe that Tyson Fury will be in a position to fight AJ in April. But if he beats Deontay Wilder in December, surely he'll be in a position to fight Anthony Joshua. Now, obviously, it all depends on a rematch clause, because there is a point, Deontay Wilder must have a rematch clause in place. Do you know what I mean? Now, Frank Warren isn't helping the situation by not clearing up the situation about the rematch clause. I'll grant it. I will give people that. Yeah? But then that makes it sound to me like there isn't a rematch clause in place, potentially. Or is there? So yeah, it does get a bit confusing there. But it's Barry Hearn's response to all of that. Because Frank said, that's my problem, don't worry about that. If that's my problem, that's my job to make sure Fury's ready to fight Anthony Joshua next. If he beats Deontay Wilder. You let me worry about that. But if he is in a position to fight Anthony Joshua next, will you make that fight? Then he said, yeah, we'll make that fight. Subject to terms and conditions, of course, of a contract. And then they started getting into a back and forth argument with each other, you heard it. And, he basically turned around and said, Frank, well, that'd be easy, innit? 50-50 split. Remember what I talked about earlier in this video? The winner of Wilder Fury, their stock rises. So if it's not 50-50, it's definitely 60-40. But this is the whole thing. Barry Hearn, all he's talking about, we're a business, we've got a business to run. We'll have to look around if Deontay Wilder doesn't beat Tyson Fury, but why wouldn't you want to fight Tyson Fury? It doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense at all. Then he turns around and says, oh, Radio 5 should be ashamed of himself, or, you know, you don't negotiate a commercial fight out in public. And even Eddie Hearn said this in the past, but you guys were happy to negotiate a commercial fight between Anthony Joshua and Joseph Parker out in public. You were talking about splits, you know, how the negotiations were going. Oh, they're asking for, you know, whatever, 50-50, you know, we're not going to give them that. They're asking for 60-40, you know, we're not going to give them that. Oh, we're not going to give them 60-35. Oh, we've settled at, you know, a 33% split for Joseph Parker. Eddie Hearn was talking about all of that. That negotiation situation with Joseph Parker and Anthony Joshua out in public, but you don't want to talk about this sort of negotiation between either Fury or Wilder out in public. You know, and end of the day, what did you think you were coming on the show for? You agreed to come on the show to talk to Frank. What did you think you were going to talk about? Of course he was going to talk about percentage splits. You know, you gave your consent, said, yeah, I'm happy to speak to Frank live on air. What do you think it was going to happen? So it just sounds like more and more to me like Barry Hearn. You know what? He don't want this fight with Wilder, and he definitely doesn't want it. And it sounds like they don't even want the fight with Fury if Fury beats Wilder, because we're going to go through the same whole scenario again with Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua if Tyson Fury beats Deontay Wilder. Do you know what I mean? I don't know how many more videos like this I can keep making where I am pointing out the obvious to you, and you just want to deny it. You know, the real boxing fans out there, and there are real boxing fans out there, will understand what's going on here. It's the fanboys that won't accept it. They'll argue it and they'll come up with the old points and say, oh, well, Wilder lost his pen and didn't sign the contract and blah, 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 blah. I've rebutted all those excuses that you keep making. Go watch my playlist, AJ versus Wilder. All the videos are on there. All the answers to all your questions are on each and every one of those videos. So I don't bother engaging with you guys in the comment section anymore. Go watch my videos and you'll have your answers. But even just from that, what happened with Frank, and Frank enjoyed that because he was like, do you know what? I've got you on the ropes now and I'm going to keep you there. So, just to me, look, it still looks and sounds like even if Fury beats Wilder and becomes the WBC lineal champion of the world, there's still going to be these sort of problems. And it sounds like to me, from Barry's initial reaction, was we have to look around and make the best fights for AJ and the best fights for the public. We have a business to run. You know, and Frank was right. Well, you're telling me the public don't want to see AJ versus Wilder in an undisputed heavyweight championship of the world? Says it all, really, in my opinion. And for all you guys out there who keep pushing that narrative that Barry Hearn has nothing to do with the boxing side of things at Matchroom, if he doesn't, why is he being allowed to talk to Kugan Cassius and basically have and make and say things in interviews, the things he's been saying? Why is he being allowed to go on Radio 5 to talk to Frank Warren? And why is he being sent out to America constantly to speak to Shelly Finkel? If he doesn't run Matchroom, if he doesn't have any say in Matchroom boxing, and Eddie Hearn's the sole boss and he makes all the decisions. The reason he is allowed is because he is the chairman of Matchroom Sports, and he is the boss of Matchroom Sports. Eddie Hearn's the CEO. He goes around and does all the running around and comes up with all the ideas, but the final say, I believe, comes from Barry Hearn. And that's why this fight with Anthony Joshua, between Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua, is not taking place. And potentially, if Fury beats Deontay Wilder, we won't even see AJ versus Fury next, by the sounds of things. That's just the way I see it. Anyway, guys, that's all I got for you on this one. As always, like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, this is Cypherbox reminding you to keep it real.